Hi guys, welcome to episode 3 of Introduction to Biology for SHS students. In our last episode, we looked at how we can apply biology in our schools and then our industries and then our homes and then careers associated with the learning of biology. Now, in this episode, we'll be looking at scientific method. But first, follow me on YouTube, the BioTutor, and then on TikTok at the_bio_tutor. Thank you. So, first of all, let's define scientific method. Scientific method is a systematic way of solving problems, acquisition of knowledge, and investigation of facts about nature. Now, the whole issue is nature is a very complex thing. Now, when we talk about nature, nature is the world. And then the world is a very complex place where we are now trying to find solutions to certain problems pertaining to nature. Therefore, we have to go through a series of steps before we can find solution to it. Because if you don't go through series of steps, you will turn out giving a wrong solution to a very good testable, problem. So biologists work using scientific method. The biologist uses the scientific method to investigate and solve problems in the labs and then on the field. During investigation, a biologist collects raw data, which is perhaps called information, and analyzes it using a control setup. Now, what is a control setup? A control setup is a standard variable used to compare variables under investigation. So let's say we are having a control setup, which is like water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, and then that is a control setup. Therefore, you have to make an experiment, and then you compare your experiment you are making with that of the control setup you are having to see if indeed water will be boiled at 100 degrees Celsius. The scientific method uses two forms of thinking or methods of thinking. Now we have the inductive method of thinking, and then we have the deductive method of thinking. Now, with this reasoning, scientists go through this to test for hypotheses to see if all living organisms are the same. Are there differences? And indeed, if there are differences, then what is the difference between organism A and an organism B? So, scientific method uses both deductive and an inductive reasoning or thinking method. Now, let's look at inductive thinking or reasoning method. This is a method of thinking which involves making a generalized conclusion from a specific observation. Now, in scientific method, we have to observe first. And then with this observation, we are making it specific. And then we will use that specific observation to make a generalized conclusion. So, example, Ya is a female. She has developed breast, meaning that all females develops breast. So this, we are making a specific observation, and then that specific thing we are making that observation on is Ya. And then we are saying that Ya is a female. She has developed breast. So meaning that if you are Ya and then you're a female, you should develop breast. There can be a man who is who is called Ya but hasn't developed breast. Therefore, we are saying all females develops breast. So we've looked at a specific observation we are having, and then we are making a generalized conclusion out of it. So let's look at the next form of thinking. We have the deductive method. This method of thinking involves making a generalized observation to draw a specific conclusion. So here, the observation is not specific, but it is generalized. And then we are making a specific conclusion. This is normally used to test and then predict hypotheses. So, for example, all mammals give birth to young ones live. Dog is a mammal, and therefore, dog will give birth to young one live. So, meaning that all mammals are organisms that can give birth. And then we are saying a dog is a mammal, therefore, it can give birth live. Now, there are some key principles of scientific method. We have empiricism, testability, replicability. Now we have a peer review. So first of all, let's look at empiricism. Now we are saying scientific method is empirical. One characteristic of scientific method, it is empirical. Now empirical means that it is based on scientific idea and then test. And then we do not rely on any ideological statement or just raw statements. So, like, let's say we give an example. If you put rice in hot water, not on fire, if you put rice in hot water, the rice will be cooked. This is just a raw fact the person is given, and then this doesn't base on empirical statement. Now, empiricism, relying on empirical evidences. And then with empirical evidences, you have to go through series of steps before you can finally say that indeed rice should be put on fire, and then the water has to be boiled, and then the rice has to be placed in the boiled water for some time before it can be cooked. And then we have to test that experiment to prove that indeed this is empirical and then it's not based on factual means. Okay, we have testability. Hypothesis must be tested. Hypothesis must be tested. So we are saying that, oh, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. Therefore, if you are trying to test it, if you are trying to, apply scientific method, you have to also test it to see if water will be boiled at 100 degrees Celsius. And indeed, if party A, party B, and party D goes through this series of scientific method and then finds out that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, then indeed we believe and accept that water will be boiled at 100 degrees Celsius. Now, in hypothesis, if we accept a certain hypothesis, meaning that it has become a theory. So, indeed, if we test and then we accept that water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, then it will become a theory or principle. Okay. Let's look at replicability. Results should be reproducible. Results should be reproducible. Now, if you've conducted an experiment and then you are saying that indeed you've tested the experiment, you've undergone empirical evidences, and then indeed your experiment is true, other scientists should also have the ability to replicate the same method you did, and then it should yield the same results. Let's look at peer review. Experts should critique and then validate. Validation should be possible or validate your method. So there should be a situation where we have to criticize your method, and then we should validate. We should see how valid your method is. So, for example, Aristotle was grouping living things and then group living things according to its physical means or how the organism move, sometimes their habitats. But when Carolus Linus came, or even John Ray said no, there should be another means. So Aristotle was doing the artificial means. John Ray came to do the natural means, meaning that genetically we can also group organisms. And then when it was being criticized, Carolus Linus came up and they said that then we have to combine both the natural means and then artificial means together. So scientific method should always stand tall, and then it should be criticized and then validated. It should be validated to yield a good result. Let's look at importance of scientific method. We have problem solving. Now, scientific method facilitates identification and then resolution of problems. So if there is a problem, you go through scientific method and then you can resolve the problem. Critical thinking. Scientific method encourages skepticism and critical evaluation. Objective truth. Scientific method should ensure unbiased and objective findings. So there shouldn't be bias anywhere. And then it should go straight to the problem solving method where it is solving a problem. Because if it is biased, meaning that it wouldn't be validated, and then always there will be critique because there has to be a peer review. And under the peer review, we should criticize and then validate your method. So always scientific method should be unbiased. We have systematic approach, provides a structured framework for investigation. So scientific method will provide a structured framework for investigation. You can't just wake up and then say that you are just going to solve a problem. You have to go through series of steps, observing, forming hypothesis, experimenting. So you have to get a structured framework for the particular investigation you are doing. There is no way you can use your structured framework of identifying cells to that of environment. So always the type of investigation will tell or provide a structured framework that has to be used. So we have decision making, accountability, and then we have innovation too as well. Let's look at application of the scientific method. Now we can apply scientific method in education. This enhance learning and then critical thinking skills. Also, we can apply scientific method in social sciences. It helps us understand human behavior and then social phenomena. Now there is one instance in biology. What is the mutual understanding between plants and then some organisms, where plants will be offering shelter and then the other organism will be offering protection. So let's say ants and then plants. Ants will be demanding for shelter and then support, and then plants will be demanding for protection from ants so that they can fight against predators. So always there is a social sciences which help us understand human behavior or organisms behavior and then the social phenomenon. We can apply scientific method in medicine too as well to develop new treatments and then medications. We have that of technology. Scientific method drives innovation in fields like AI, artificial intelligence, robotics, and then material science. We have environmental science too. Scientific method informs conservation and then sustainability efforts. So our pollution, our land degradation, and then that of yes, environmental pollution as well. So it informs conservation and then sustainability effort.